Becky and me, welcome to Friday's Anglia tonight.
First, it's a murder that still remains a mystery a decade after it shocked a community in Suffolk.
Victoria Hall's brutal killing made headlines for weeks following her disappearance in September 1999 after a night out with friends in Felixstowe.
Tomorrow will mark the 10th anniversary of her death, an anniversary that's prompted her father to make a fresh appeal to find her killer. Martin Stew reports.
Linda and I think of Victoria every day, probably in every hour of every day. There's something that we think of her and miss her.
10 years on, and for Graham Hall, the pain of losing his daughter is still just as raw. It was 10 years ago that Victoria and her friend Gemma Alger left the Bandbox nightclub and headed to a kebab shop. From there, they made their way back to Trimley St Mary. Walking together, Gemma and Vicky, as Victoria was often known, went their separate ways at the junction of High Road and Falconer's Way. Vicky was never seen alive again. The following Friday, a man walking his dog at Creeting St Peter near Stowmarket found Vicky's body in a stream. A huge police operation was launched to find her killer, involving 100 officers. They received over 3,000 calls from the public, making it one of the biggest investigations in Suffolk police history. In November 2001, a man from Felixstowe was acquitted of Vicky's murder after a trial at Norwich Crown Court. Asked at the time if they were looking for anyone else, Detective Superintendent Roy Lambert said he felt the police had exhausted every line of inquiry. Since then, the case has remained open, with Vicky's killer never found. Retired Police Sergeant Chris Cushnaham was involved in the investigation for 2 years.
This was a young girl abducted in the early hours of the morning, taken away 25 miles away, where her body was found 7 days later. That could have been anyone's daughter. And that is why the appeal is so important. You know, someone out there does hold some information that may be the stepping stone for us to further that investigation.
It's still not too late. We can still catch the person and you know, at least bring them to justice and make them pay the crime.
A final plea for closure after 10 years of hurt. Martin Stew, Anglia News, Trimley St Mary.
Yes, Martin Stew there reporting on the 10th anniversary of the murder of Victoria Hall.
And if you know of any information you think could be of help to Suffolk Police in finding Victoria's killer, you can call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. That's 0800 555 111.
Now, there were emotional scenes today as a solicitor with a reputation as a crusader for the weak and vulnerable was cleared of any wrongdoing.
Yvonne Hossack from Northampton has made her name fighting against council care home closures. She'd been accused of bringing her profession into disrepute, but today won her case at the Solicitors' Disciplinary Tribunal in London. Well,
her supporters say she should never have been brought before the tribunal. Our political correspondent Emma Hutchinson has been following the case. We can join her now. Emma, this has been a high-profile case then.
Yes, that's right. Over the past 12 years, Yvonne Hossack has brought case after case against local councils to court. She's campaigned against the closure of care homes for the elderly and also for the provision of services for those with disabilities. Now, her supporters, many of her clients, say that she is a voice for the vulnerable. But during the course of her work, many local councils, including Northamptonshire County Council, have complained about the way she's gone about things, saying she's broken the solicitors' rules. That was what led to this week's tribunal. But today, in this case, well, Yvonne Hossack got the decision that she wanted. Celebrations after being cleared of 6 allegations of improper conduct. Yvonne Hossack has been surrounded by supporters throughout this tribunal. Today there were cheers and tears of relief.
I think it's a miracle. I'd like to thank everyone for the prayers they've sent up, but it's a miracle. They'd built these gallows high. I wasn't expecting not to be hung on them.
The Kettering-based solicitor has made a name for herself by fighting in court against the closure of care homes for the elderly and campaigning against cuts in services for those with disabilities. But this week she's been fighting to defend her own reputation against allegations of breaching client confidentiality and taking instructions from those other than her clients. The tribunal came after complaints from some county councils, including Northamptonshire. Today, all 6 allegations were found not proven, and the tribunal said there had been the most minor of breaches of client confidentiality that deserved no punishment. Her supporters were thrilled.
I'm absolutely delighted, absolutely delighted. The people, the disabled, the elderly and the frail throughout the country will be absolutely delighted.
I'm so very happy because this will mean so much to so many people, and Yvonne is well loved by many people.
I'm absolutely delighted. My mother's in sheltered accommodation, and Yvonne's also representing her scheme where they're trying to get rid of the living wardens. And if this had gone against us today, it would have just been a green light for councils to do whatever they want.
But today marks the end of a difficult time preparing for and defending herself at the tribunal.
I've had people phoning me and in tears when I've said to them, I don't know if I'll be able to help you after the end of this week, and they've been frightened and stressed and crying.
Yvonne Hossack says she will now continue her work to give a voice to the weak and the vulnerable.
Emma, so what's the reaction from Northamptonshire County Council?
Well, I spoke to Northamptonshire County Council this afternoon to get their reaction to today's decision. This is what they had to say, this from their Deputy Leader, County Councillor Joan Kirkbride. They said this case was never about an attempt to deny a voice to some of our most vulnerable people. We all have the needs of those receiving care at the centre of everything we do. This case was to make sure that the legal codes of conduct and that the legal profession's own regulations were adhered to. We fully accept the findings of the hearing. And of course, today's decision means that Yvonne Hossack can carry on practising, carry on doing the work she does. She believes she owes the decision today to the support of many witnesses who she called in her defence during this tribunal, including high-profile witnesses like the Home Secretary Alan Johnson and Northamptonshire MPs Brian Binley and Sally Keeble. But she believes most of all she owes it to her clients who are also in court to support her during this week. And she says she now has so much more time to devote to working for them and continuing with the cases that she's doing.
Emma, thank you very much. Well, next tonight, how children, parents and teachers are being affected by radical reorganisation of our schools. Much of the region is shifting from a three-tier structure of first, middle and high schools to a system with just two types of school, primary and secondary.
Let's take a look at the educational landscape at the moment. Cambridgeshire and Essex already have a two-tier system in place. Northampton is the same, although elsewhere in Northamptonshire it's a mixed picture. In Norfolk and Suffolk, the move to the two-tier system is ongoing, but almost there. Hertfordshire has already made the transition, with a few exceptions. In Bedfordshire, all schools are still lower, middle and upper, although the council is in talks to move to the streamlined system in the future. Milton Keynes is mixed and has no plans to change. So, what does it all mean then? We focused on one county, Norfolk, where Malcolm Robertson has been looking at the impact on one cluster of villages.
The start of the school year can be an unsettling time, even more so just now for thousands of parents and children across the region faced with school reorganisation and closures. In West Norfolk, for instance, where schools face being merged or shut. This one, Churchill at Grimston, could be axed. There are just 9 pupils here. Could you really justify keeping it open?
There's pros and cons, where the cons would be maybe they don't get the social skills, but, you know, they get the extra help that they need, so.
I think it's really sad because I came here, my brother came here, my son came here, my daughter came here, and it's such a shame now that there's such turmoil in the village.
In neighbouring Suffolk, there have been a number of recent protests over their plans to close some schools as part of reorganisation. As with many counties, Norfolk's been moving to a more streamlined educational structure, trying to achieve a two-tier system of primary and then secondary education rather than 3 stages of first, middle and then high school. Across much of Norfolk, that's already been achieved, but there are some pockets where it's still to be introduced, including a cluster of schools around Grimston near King's Lynn. The 5 schools there involved in reorganisation are Grimston Junior and Churchill, Pot Row, Ashwickan and Gayton First Schools. If option 1's accepted, there will be primary schools at Ashwickan, Gayton and Grimston. Option 2, primary schools in Grimston and Ashwickan or Gayton. Option 3, there would be just 1 primary on the Grimston Junior School site, which would mean the closure of the other 4 local schools. Ashwickan School is one of those under threat, despite the fact that a £300,000 eco-classroom block was opened just a few months ago.
Our school has been wanting to go primary for quite a long time, and all the school community is very passionate about having the school stay open. We do not want to close.
The earliest any change would take place would be September next year.
I think people understand that this is best for children. We're very, very mindful of the love that people have for their local schools. We work very closely with governors who are local people who are very, very focused on the benefits of schools to communities. So I'm hopeful that we will, as we have before, manage to get through this without anybody getting upset.
But with the consultation process underway, it's clear some teachers and parents are upset and unsure what the future holds. Malcolm Robertson, Anglia.